Whether you hate it or love it, Dragon Ball Z is one of the most popular shonen animes to ever release. And a great anime also means great games. Ever since Dragon Ball first aired on Japanese television, every year there's a new Dragon Ball game just being pumped out the wazoo, and niggas were eating that shit up. Every year a new Dragon Ball game would drop. Of course, not many of those games would release in the US because we didn't really get Dragon Ball until the mid-90s, but either way, even when that came to America, everybody was still eating that up, with Dragon Ball GT, the final bout, being the first Dragon Ball game to ever release in America. I was discussing Dragon Ball games with my friend Ricky Red Falco. Make sure y'all check out his channel, his links will be in the description. And he mentioned a game to me that I've heard of but I wasn't too familiar with. Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Now, I didn't know a lot about Dragon Ball Z Sagas. All I knew it was a Dragon Ball Z game, like any other game. I thought it was a fighting game at first, but that's just me not doing my research. Dragon Ball Z Sagas is an adventure game where you go through the Dragon Ball story, like every other Dragon Ball game. We've done this 20 times, people. However, I haven't seen people talk about it. I just thought it was one of those obscure Dragon Ball games, but people don't talk about it because the game's ass. And from how my friend was describing it, I had to see, was the game really that ass if I played it? I mean, what if niggas just sucked, So I decided to boot up the emulator and decide to play Dragon Ball Z Saga for myself to see how truly bad the game is. And if I tell you, man, it was an experience. For those of you who watch my channel already, y'all already know me. But for those whose first video this watching, my name's zelsharpe, and this gonna be my first video essay review or whatever you want to call it about video games. And today we'll be talking about Dragon Ball Z Saga. Dragon Ball Z Saga is released in March 22nd of 2005 for the PlayStation 2, the Nintendo GameCube, even surprisingly, the original Xbox. Yeah, this was the only Dragon Ball Z game to release for the Xbox. Imagine being that poor soul who was a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, and the only console you owned in your home was this big bulky piece of shit, and the only game you could play was Dragon Ball Z Sagas. I'm glad I wasn't one of those people. Upon starting the game, you're taken straight to the title screen. No intro of any kind, which was kind of shocking to me because most Dragon Ball games by this time always had some kind of intro, whether it be original animation, 3D CGI animation, but nope, we get straight to the title screen. And then we get to the menu. I don't like this menu. It just doesn't say Dragon Ball. You know how Dragon Ball games usually have all the characters, you have one character voiceover, every single option you select, everything Dragon Ball is there. Of course, you got, let's say, the backgrounds, you got the earth, you got the Dragon Balls, the dragons, you'll see a manga cover reference like Tenkaichi. Basically, you would see Dragon Ball, but here this menu just looks generic. I know they're trying to replicate the Dragon Radar, which is one of the biggest key items in the entire manga, but it just shouldn't be used for that. Keep the radar to like a map system and call it a day, It just doesn't fit with the whole Dragon Ball aesthetic. If I didn't know this was Dragon Ball Z Sagas and I walked into the room and seen that pause menu, I would not think it's a Dragon Ball Z game you're playing. I would think it's Ben 10. It doesn't even help the fact when you do pause the game, all music just cuts off and you're stuck with hearing bleeps and bloops all the time. Of course, it is Dragon Ball Z Sagas, so of course they'll be covering the sagas. But this time it goes from the Saiyan Saga all the way up until the Cell Saga. No Buu Saga for whatever reason, which is kind of strange because pretty much ever since the anime ended, almost every Dragon Ball game have adapted every single saga. And most other games, the other games that don't do that, they really just cover one saga. So why it stops right at Cell? I don't know. But we have the Saiyan Saga, the Ginyu Saga, the Frieza Saga, Yardrat Saga for whatever reason, the Trunk Saga, the Android Saga, and of course the Cell Saga being the longest saga. Upon selecting the saga, you'll see that there's a two-player option. That's right, a two-player story mode Dragon Ball game. And this will be the only game where we get co-op multiplayer. What a horrible timeline. Dragon Ball is nothing short of going on adventures and just fighting with your friends. That's Dragon Ball, man. You always got the game with you. So of course, it would make a great concept in a Dragon Ball game, especially an adventure one, not just any regular fighting game. So the fact that we only got adventure multiplayer in this shitty ass game, and we never saw it again, actually sucks, and actually makes me sad because I feel like we can generally make a good adventure story mode multiplayer Dragon Ball game. I feel like DBZ Kakarot could have had a good multiplayer system just with enough time and planning. But of course, the first time they did it, it was in a terrible game, and that would be the last time they did it. And I'm so sad that it ended up the way it did. So starting off with the fight with Raditz, player 1 will get to play as Goku, and player 2 will get to play as Piccolo, which I did with Riku Red Faku in one of my streams. Check out my Twitch, zelsharpe. We played it on the hardest difficulty, and it was not a nice experience. There was no pleasure in that at all, no pleasure. Once you've selected your saga, you'll see that every loading screen will have a cutscene, and this cutscene, I don't know where it came from. I don't want to say that it was animated for the game. I refuse to believe it, but there's something about the animation and the art style that like just threw me off. I don't know, maybe because I like the old school Dragon Ball and all the Z animations, that like all the modernized stuff specifically for around this time didn't really fit me. I know the anime ended a long time ago, so maybe the animators don't have it like it used to, but I don't know, the animation is just weird. Once you enter the stage, it pretty much just becomes your regular beat 'em up. Of course, Cybermen spawn in when they're not supposed to. I mean, it's a beat 'em up though. I mean, what else are you gonna have, right? And basically, you gotta beat up the yellow Cybermen. They're the smallest ones. They're the weakest ones. And eventually, you'll find the red Cybermen with shoot key blasts. And there's one Cyberman that takes forever to beat his ass for. I don't know why. Now, the multiplayer works, but it's the camera that's ass. You see, the camera only focuses on the person who's like making the farthest progress, you know, actually advancing towards the save. So whoever's in the back, they're not gonna have a good time, because if enemies are off screen, it's really hard to actually attack them, especially with physical combat. If you're just hitting them with punches and kicks, those attacks might not go through because they're not showing up on the screen, at least from what I've seen. Each level art is tasked with missions. For example, the first level, you got to get about 4 Z coins. The Z coins can be used to upgrade. You'll find some kind of ring thingy-majig which have a Z in it, and you can go in there. The music will awkwardly stop, and you get to pick your upgrades. For the first stage, there's only 4 Z coins, so you can only pick your special abilities, which of course with Goku would be the Kamehameha, and Piccolo the special beam cannon. One thing I should have mentioned from the start was the movement of the game. Yeah, it's not good. Not good. I give it an F. I give it an F. First off, you start off slow, which I understand. You're just like walking, and then you kind of accelerate to run faster, which is weird. And then when you turning around doesn't feel really good. It's like trying to move a Walmart shopping cart that has a messed up tire. It's not a good feeling at all. You have your basic jump, kick, and attack, kick, punch, all that, your ki blast and all. Of course, you got your key bar, your health bar. Of course, everything's all good. But with the movement, it kind of sucks because of how you turn it so slow. If an enemy like vanishes or like turns around like kind of like a sidestep, it kind of sucks to lock on to the enemy, which there is a lock on button, don't get me wrong. But if you don't have it, it's kind of unsatisfying to fight. So what about flying in this game, right? Come on, it's Dragon Ball Z. It's not a Dragon Ball Z game if you can't fly, right? You can't do that. Well, kind of. Once you press X to jump, right? And you gotta double tap it to hover in the air. But the highest elevation would be the highest elevation of your jump is when you can fly. And not only that, the flying is so slow. And why do we have to? That's so bad. Why do we have to like keep running to gain speed like a Sonic the Hedgehog?
Well, there you can glide.
Yeah, but that's not even that is fast. Not even this is fast.
None of this is fast, and that's the bad part.
You're generally better off just running because the flying is just useless at this point. The only reason you will need flying is to backtrack all the way to get a couple Z coins, but then again, you're not going to need it, which I'll explain later.
Don't mess with me. Goku and Piccolo, the Earth's 2 greatest fighters.
What the fuck? Okay, so for the first intro cutscene, we used what I believe is original Dragon Ball animation. But then everything after that is animation from the Z anime. So why couldn't we just use original animation from the original Dragon Ball anime for the intro? Wouldn't that make more sense? Why are we using completely different art styles now? It just kind of bothers me. I mean, you used the Z anime and then you used something completely different for the intro? I thought it was gonna have its own original animations by what the intro showed me, but never mind, I guess. And then they just used this weird red filtering in the background. I don't know what they were trying to go for. I don't know what their aesthetic was, but like it wasn't pleasuring to look at. Not only that, it got some red tinting, like GT tinting, which just looks weird. So we're on with our fights with Raditz, and yes, even though me and Riku did play this on hard, this fight is unsatisfying, and this will go for every fight following that. Basically, look at his health bar and look at the damage that we're doing. Not a lot of progress can get done within a quick amount of time. It was so bad that me and Riku was generally convinced that we had to trigger some kind of special sequence. For example, like how Gohan is supposed to pop out of the capsule and just like hit Raditz. But so I was trying to figure it out. So I went to the thing where Gohan was in it and nothing happened. But no, there are no special events that you gotta trigger. You mainly just gotta beat him and just waste your time doing the littlest damage you can to him. All fun has been completely sucked out of this game. They just wasted all types of potential. We then get to Nappa, but you know, it's the same thing as the Raditz fights. You just spam the kick and the punch move simultaneously, and then you takes like what, 10 minutes, and then you beat him. Right after that, Goku is brought back to life, and then the next stage is Goku versus Vegeta. Now the gameplay has switched up a little bit. Hear me out. So in multiplayer, of course there'll be teams, you know. So level 1 was Goku and Piccolo, and level 2 was Gohan and Piccolo. So when it came to level 3, where you go against Vegeta, it's solely Goku versus Vegeta. So how does it work in multiplayer mode? You would think your second player would play as a clone of Goku, but no, that's not really how it works. You see, instead, it is Goku and Vegeta, but it's only one Goku. How it works is that the players take turns playing as Goku fighting Vegeta. In concept, this is cool, but in execution, it's horrible. For one, this timer is way too short for how long it'll take for the battles. Like I said, it takes like 10 minutes to beat a nigga's ass in this game. So with that short timer, it's not a lot of fun. At least from when I've been playing, I cannot find any sensu beans. So if one person dies, then that person is dead. It'll be all up to that one player who's alive until they die themselves. And once again, we also play that part on hard difficulty, and one Galagun can really take a lot of damage. Yeah. If you don't beat it, damn! Half your health is crazy! Half your health is crazy! Alright, Jaden, I think you got this, bro.
I got this. What the fuck that mean?
You got this until the timer run out.
Bro, basically, Goku, you Vegeta when they was fighting Boo, bro. All you gotta do is last for 3 minutes, bro.
Got you, bro. Damn! Listen, there's a lot of shitty games. I like playing shitty games, but there's just a difference between boring shitty and fun shitty. Dragon Ball Z Sagas is the boring shitty section. There's absolutely nothing redeeming at all with this game. And after I beat Vegeta, I was completely dissatisfied. The next one was the Ginyu Saga, where you start as Vegeta, but that was honestly it for me. I didn't have a reason to keep going forward because of how repetitive it would get. Maybe it might have been my 5-year-old TikTok attention span, but once again, it was just boring. And I know you wouldn't want to play that shit all the way too either. If you have anger issues, bro, don't play this game. Of course, if you do beat the game, I heard you can unlock characters like Broly and shit. But by the time you beat the game, do you still want to keep going in general? Am I gonna keep playing the game just because Broly's in there? And Broly's one of my favorite DBZ characters, but just because I can unlock him doesn't mean I'm gonna use him. I'm done playing the game. I'm putting that shit in the dumpster. Of course, this was during a time where Dragon Ball Z was pumping games like every year. Like, you'll get at least 2-3 Dragon Ball games a year. So, of course, this one would be forgettable when other good games like Budokai Tenkaichi was new at the time. It was pumping out. I'm glad people will forget about this game. I don't need anybody talking about it. Once again, a Dragon Ball game where it's in a whole all adventure mode and multiplayer is a great concept. But Dragon Ball Z Saga fails to execute that. And because of that, we never got it again. But I feel like we can truly give whatever developers a second chance to actually make a good co-op Dragon Ball adventure game. Because that is Dragon Ball. It's all about the adventure. I like Dragon Ball games, don't get me wrong. But, sometimes it's the fighting that gets repetitive. We always want to try something new after all. Once again, Dragon Ball has so much content that you can pretty much make any game out of Dragon Ball. Any genre of game, you can make it out of Dragon Ball. If I had to put this game on my list, I put it on the shit list. It's just not enjoyable. The music is ass. I should have mentioned that. I should have mentioned that earlier. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the music either. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I just don't like it. But the visuals is horrible. I mean, the character models from the back look okay, but when you look at them from the front, I think it's their faces. Their faces just throw me off. They don't. I feel like if they could have just retextured it a little bit, then maybe I would be a little bit soft on it. But I don't know. Their faces throw me off horribly. Of course, it's a PS2 game, and you know they got a lot of shit running in the screen, so they got to make sure they save as much data as possible. You know what I'm saying? So they give them like some low poly shit, but it just doesn't look good. I think for its time, it didn't look good. The combat system is absolutely horrendous. The movement is one of the worst movement you can get in any Dragon Ball game. Like, it should be a sin to have that kind of movement in a Dragon Ball game. All about being fast and shit, speed of light and shit. So yeah, I'm giving this game a big F tier. It's horrible. I don't want to play it again. I'm probably going to delete. I'm glad I didn't buy no physical copy. I like getting physical copies of games, but I heard it was bad, so I had to emulate it because I knew I wasn't going to waste no money on this game. But yeah, that's really all I can say for the game. It's just shit. It's so shit. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, man. It even took us a while to even get to Vegeta. It's just one of those games where it's like you don't want to keep going after death, because when you do die, you got to start the thing all over again. There's no checkpoints either, which is absolutely absurd. Like when you beat a phase, no checkpoint when you die. Not even the Z's rings count as checkpoints, which is absolutely horrendous. So I don't recommend you playing this game. I don't recommend your family getting this game. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, bro, just don't even touch this game. Don't even watch a video of this game. It's just something that should be wiped off the plane of existence.